This podcast contains strong language and adult themes from the outset.
Finding the funny. Finding the funny. With Ruth and Ange. Finding the funny.
Hey, Ange, listen.
Yeah.
Just listen for a second. It's just us two.
I know. Do you know what I was thinking about
Holy
this
shit.
morning? Yeah. I was like, bloody hell, it's going to be a bit novel.
It's
just
weird.
It's just.
I don't like
it's
it.
It's just Patty and me.
I don't like it. I don't like
Eh?
it.
Like it.
I'm done. Unless there's a guest, unless we're talking to Ramesh Ranganathan or that calibre of person, I'm not interested.
I mean, I think we just need to touch on.
I think we just need to touch Ramesh. He was
well, I mean,
fit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Bloody
He
hell.
was. Yeah. He was
Bloody
bloody.
hell.
And he was lying in bed.
Ooh.
Oh, Ramesh. But yeah, I mean, he was just so much fun, wasn't he, Pat?
Oh, yeah. Do you know what Dad said about Ramesh when he listened? Dad doesn't normally listen to the podcast. He's normally just
Rude,
mum on her own.
rude,
But he
rude.
listened because we had Ranganathan.
Do you know what? I had a few friends actually, predominantly males, who messaged me going, "Ange, listen to your podcast this week." I'm like, I mean, it's great. Thanks for listening this week, but what about all the others?
Exactly.
And Mal's
Exactly.
included in that. Yeah.
He said, what I like about Ramesh is there's a real earthiness about him.
Wow.
Yeah, that was
Wow,
Mal's
that's
critique.
Mal's take.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think
earthy.
he's right.
Yeah, I think he's right. I think he's nailed it. Now, Ange and I had a bit of a Barney this week. Just in case everybody thinks that, for people who are new around here, if you did come and listen as a result of Ramesh and you've come back, firstly, thank
you.
We're so pleased you're here. Secondly, Ange and I are sisters, if you don't know, and we get together every week and we are exceptionally close, but this week we did have a falling out.
And the falling out predominantly happened over WhatsApp.
Yeah, and then a tiny little bit on Zoom when we got together to do the prep for the podcast. But we were both so pissed off with each other. And anyway, I said, no, I can't do this now. And I just ended the meeting because I was the one that hosted the meeting. So I just ended it for both of us, slammed my laptop lid down and went, for fuck's sake, bitch.
But then, so I said, this is, as we're mid-argument, I'm like, right, just forget it, Pat. Let's just get on and get this prep done. She goes, no, can't bloody do it now. I'm not in the right frame of mind. Bang, gone. I'm like, okay, fine, fuck you. Then, like 2 minutes later, she texts me going, we do actually need to do the podcast.
Because as soon as I shut the lid down, I was like, shit, we do actually need to get this done.
I know. So I'm like, I just tried saying, yeah, okay, I can do it now. Okay, fine. And then we just went,
and then we had a nice chat, didn't we? And
we were
sorted
able
it
to
out,
resolve.
and it was resolved. But in case because I often get messages from people saying, I love the relationship you and your sister have. You're so close. You get on so well, which 99% of the time is true.
Do. Yeah.
But there is a 1%. And when that 1% creeps in, we do happen to lose it quite a lot with each other, don't we? When
We
that
do.
1% happens.
Yeah. And the 1% that happens tends to be kind of bordering 100% of our
Oh, yeah.
arguments.
Yeah. Because we can really push each other's buttons because we know each other so
definitely.
well.
Yeah.
We can say things that
But I
make each
think-
other go, oh.
I think at the same time, we can go from like that 0 to 60 very quickly. But also, I think we're very good at going, okay, there's no point being like this. We need to figure out how, and then we're able to kind of
we're straight.
We get back to the zero again, don't we, Pat?
We get back to the zero.
Back to the zero,
Back to the zero.
Yeah.
Coming up later on, we've got a really great chat, which we've just done with psychosexual therapist Cate Campbell.
Yeah, she's amazing,
isn't she?
She just comes out with it all, don't she?
Yeah.
Talks about having a sex ban.
Talks about sex bans.
We also come up with a good potential podcast title.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the chat, keep that in, Joe.
Definitely keep that in, Joe. Listen, Ange, we didn't do this for Ramesh last week, but shall we?
Let's do Le Big Question.
We had an email in this week from Matt, and Matt said, how do you feel about people who can instantly fall asleep? They both astound and piss me off in equal measure.
I am 100% with Matt.
Now, I am the person that can instantly fall asleep.
In fact, most of my family, you can do it.
Mum
Ian can
can't.
do it. Mum, yes. Fucking hell, like before bloody COVID times, and she could come in. Like she'd come over to my ass of a week, and I'd be upstairs working away. I'd come downstairs, she's absolutely sparkle on the sofa. Yeah.
Do you know what what I will add into Mal and I, which is almost magical, is Mal and I can say either the sentence, I'm just going to have 10 minutes, or I'm just going to have 20 minutes, and wake up bang on the 10 or 20 minute.
And Mal will always, after his 10 or 20 minute nap, he'll wake up with the phrase, oh, it's gone there.
I do that too.
Oh yeah, great. Thanks, Mal.
I'll never forget the time James and I, when we were both still living at home. You'd moved out by this point. We were sat downstairs with Mal. Mal was asleep in the chair. I mean, the thing is with Mal, he can fall asleep at like 8, sleep for 3 hours, stand up and go to bed.
Straight to bed, yeah, and sleep then for another 10 hours.
James and I were watching Big Brother late into the night. It was the year that Makosi was on. It was one of our favourite years. And we're there, it's like, I don't know, 10 past midnight or something, and we're totally engrossed. Dad, absolutely sparko, snoring. I'm not even joking. Opened his eyes even before he'd like fully had his eyes open, was stood up out of the chair and just went, I'm going to bed. Just got up and walked out.
And he still does that now.
Yeah, I'm going to bed.
Literally fall asleep for an hour on the sofa, opens eyes, gets up and go to bed.
Go to bed.
That's it.
Dad fell asleep in a prezzo once with us.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
He was so absolutely shattered from the day.
Yeah.
He sat in the corner and said, oh, the food will be a minute, won't it? I'm just going to have 10 minutes.
Just
slouched down the chair and put his head back. Gone.
Mal
woke
is
up to the
definitely,
phrase.
he has become more nappy. As
I think he needs to wear a nappy sometimes. I don't know about becoming nappy. I think he needs to have a nappy on.
He definitely has that. I mean, he just goes like that, doesn't he? Sits down, eyes shut, out.
Gone. Oh,
and
I was gone there.
Piss me off.
Does it?
Yeah, it does. Because I am not a napper. I don't go to Iron Napper.
I was just about to say, what about going to Iron Napper? What do you reckon the limit for Iron Napper is? What's your higher echelons limit?
Oh, 20 minutes, I think, is your high.
Do you think? What about half an hour? What about if you push into half an hour?
I think if you go into the half an hour realms, you are potentially waking up worse than before you went to sleep. Oh,
God.
Yeah.
Honestly, that is the worst. If you do manage to nap in the day, and you do a 30 to... If you go to Iron Napper and you do a 30 to 45 minutes, you're screwed. You're screwed. You're fucked. That's it.
You've absolutely fucked yourself up.
You wake up like you've got jet lag.
Yeah.
You wake up and think, God, have I just flown to Australia? Because I am feeling seriously fucking spaced out here, man.
Like sometimes if Ian, Ian thinks he's going to Iron Napper and ends up going to Melbourne, he'll wake up. You said Melbourne. Really weirdly there.
And ends up going to Melbourne.
He wakes up like really disorientated,
dazed.
Yeah, like literally. Have I flown somewhere?
Yeah.
Am I actually? Have I left the building?
You can't rein that back in though, can you? And it's so funny because
it really fucks me off when he does that. It really does. I get
not
really
like
annoyed.
You to get fucked off by you.
I do.
Is that only in the winter season, or is
that can be across all seasons?
Even when you're life and soul.
When I'm the life and soul, if you go and find yourself popping off to Melbourne, forget it. Don't even talk to me because you fucked me right off now.
It's interesting though, isn't it? What I find really funny when people do that nap for slightly too long. Is the inability to stop yawning for the rest of the day, which will definitely piss you off because you've put that in shitting tits before.
I cannot be doing with the constant yawn.
But it's so true, isn't it? Like sometimes when Matthew has napped for like 4 hours instead of 2 hours, he's woken up and he just can't stop yawning.
Oh, I can't.
Yawning.
I cannot be doing with that. The constant yawn. You're going to get a smack in the face.
Yeah.
Do
Ange, over to you.
Yeah.
Come on, tell me about your shitting tits.
Right, now I had a few shitting tits on my list.
Okay.
But I've opted for this one because it actually happened to me yesterday. Well, actually this morning it happened to
Hot
me.
off the press.
So the thing that gets on my shitting tits is stubbing your toe.
Oh my God.
Oh, honestly. When you stub your toe, predominantly it's on the kind of side of your bed or the side of a chair or a table or so.
Oh my God. Did you do the stubbing toe dance though? Because nobody can stub their toe without going, like, shaking, and their hands flat. Oh, God, my toe, fucking hell, my toe, oh, my God.
It's the pain.
Did you bend over?
Oh, yeah, I was, and it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, I actually I don't really have a baby toe.
Neither
I've literally
do I.
got a slit in my foot.
Yeah, that's
it.
like me, yeah.
So I'm like, how can the smallest part of my body get caught on the fucking bed, chair, whatever, and then hurt to the extent that you're like, I mean, this morning, honestly, I was nearly going to cry. It hurt that much. Yeah. And I was just like,
and you've got quite a high pain threshold.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I just hate it.
Talking about pain threshold, do you remember that Christmas that I got a new bike? Right, so there is some camcorder footage of Ange, James and I. It's the best fucking thing we've ever created, the three of us. And I got a brand new bike for Christmas. I was, about 8? Do you reckon?
Yeah, I say about that, yeah.
I got a new bike.
7 or 8, yeah.
And as we discussed with Romesh last week, I'm not the most coordinated. And I actually rode up our driveway and rode into the wall. And I've got like a bowl cut and a crash helmet on. And I burst into tears, right? Dad opens the back door and sees me crying and goes, "What's the matter with you?" And you hear James off camera go, "She fell off her bike, you prick." Anyway, fast forward, like maybe 20 minutes, half an hour later, Ange dramatically comes off her bike.
Bad.
The bike skids, she rips her jeans, and just got an amazing 80s perm at this point.
Looking fly. Yeah.
She looks like she stepped out of like Top Gun.
Yeah.
Shoulder pads, hair.
Yeah.
She gets up off the ground at James's. No, I was on the camcorder because I dropped the camcorder just is round my neck and you just see my feet running over to you.
Yeah.
And off camera you hear Ange go, "Mine was worse than yours and I didn't even cry," and literally storm off into the house.
I mean, that is a clear reflection of us.
Of you and I, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
James calling Dad a prick.
Yeah, that's not really ever changed.
Me riding into a wall and crying. Fast forward, change the bike for a Segway in 30 years.
Yeah.
And you falling off the bike and storming off.
Yeah. Having full-on grazes, but zero tears.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I could have cried this morning with the stubbing of the toe.
Yeah. The only thing I think is worse than the stubbing of a toe is a smack to the nose. Have you ever had that?
Not
really. Like banged your nose. Oh, God, banged your nose.
How do you do that? How are you banging your nose?
Mate, how do I do it? I fucking drove into a wall, man. Jeepers. When I was 8, I couldn't even ride my bike in a straight line. Have you never properly banged your nose?
No, I don't think I have.
Like maybe if you're bending down to pick something up and you catch it, or somebody what about if somebody like catches you in the face?
No, not that I can recall.
Oh, because that. Oh my! Have you not ever had like a ball to the face?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
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 Like
but I just think that's. Yeah, but you're not stubbing your toe is something you do very easily
on the regs.
Yeah, your toes are just these. I mean, obviously they help you balance and they help you walk, but really they don't really do a lot else. But if you stub them,
what about your funny bone? That's pretty bad.
Yeah, but again, I just don't think you do that as frequently.
No,
I think it's your toes that are the bastards.
But there is a certain dance, isn't there, that you do?
Oh, yeah.
You've got to crouch over, hopping around, your arms go, and you're normally going, "Oh, fuck's sake, fuck, oh, God, that really hurt." And then it just subsides.
Some expletives.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
I stubbed my toe. couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
On the corner of our wardrobe. Holy
Oh,
shit.
It just
brings tears to
really
your
hurts.
eyes.
It does.
Yeah.
And at the same time that you're kind of feeling like you're going to cry, I'm, as is not unusual for me, I'm so fucking annoyed.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Like, why? Why have you just walked into the side of the bed? Why have you just walked past a chair? Like, what is wrong with you, woman? You've done this. Cause yourself pain.
Yeah.
All because you're being a bit of a prick. I get annoyed at myself.
All because you're a massive bellend.
Yes.
One of my favourite bits from last week was when Rometti used the phrase, a weapons grade bellend. So this morning, you definitely felt like a weapons grade bellend.
Grade bellend. Yeah, that is spot on. Yeah.
I'd like to know, actually, I'm going to do a little call to action from the listeners.
Oh, nice. Okay, Pats. Yeah.
Which do you think is worse, your funny bone or the stubbing of your toe?
Yeah.
So get in touch with us. I'll maybe do a little poll for next week.
Nice.
Get in touch with us. There's loads of ways you can find us. You can find us both on Instagram. I'm at Ruth Corden.
And I'm at Ange Corden. You can find us on Facebook. Just search Finding the Funny Podcast. Or you can send us an email. hello@ruthcorden.com. Right, Pats. We're going to move into some of the old dickish behaviours.
Yes.
So we had this message in from Alice on Gram. She says, turning up to a dinner party where you intend to drink without bringing alcohol, dickish.
Definitely.
Oh,
you know, those people who are like, oh no, I'm probably not, I might have a couple of, what have you got in your, have you got a couple of Peronis in there? Oh yeah, go on then, I'll have a Peroni. Did you bring anything? No, I wasn't sure. Actually, no, I am going to drink. Just give me 3 of those Peronis. You know what, mate? Why don't you eat your own fucking Peronis on the way? We passed an off licence on the way here, you bastard.
In fact, if you're now choosing to drink, you can piss off and go and get your own.
Yeah, what is it that people are like?
I know.
Oh no, actually, that wine does look quite nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll have a glass, Susan.
Is that Whispering Angels rosé? Yeah, and it's about 25 quid a bottle.
Yeah. So...
Oh, just you don't mind if I have a glass, and then it's like the whole you don't mind if I have a glass, do you? And what the hell am I going to do in front of all of our mates? Go.
Well, actually, I do.
Actually, I do.
Yeah.
Because then I look like the prick.
But then I think that's why those people do it, because they know.
Right. It's premeditated.
They know I'm going to turn up. I won't take anything to contribute, but I'm going to drink, because they ain't going to say shit to me in front of all their mates.
I might start saying no.
I think you've just got to start saying, you've got to be very clear. If you do not come with alcohol, you won't be allowed in.
What? Not you can't even join the party.
You can't even, even if you're not going to drink, come and provide for other people.
Oh no, I don't think you need to be taking alcohol if you're not going to drink. If you're going to spend your night drinking soft drinks, just take a bottle of Diet Coke.
I think if someone is hosting a party and you've been invited, I think you should turn up with a bottle of wine, a few beers.
Do you?
I do. I just think that's courteous. It's courtesy to do that.
What? Even if you're not going to have any booze yourself?
Yes, because there's probably going to be food there, so you're probably going to have some food. You're going to listen to their tunes. You're going to use the electric.
Hang on.
So therefore, you should be contributing.
No.
Yes.
No. Listening to tunes doesn't cost any money.
Sorry, Pats. What about electric?
Hang on.
No.
Hang on. What are we counting electric? That's why I've got to take booze.
I would never turn up to someone's house, whether it's a party or I'm going for some lunch or dinner, or without bringing some sort of gift. Now, okay, so it doesn't have to be booze.
Yes.
Maybe a box of chocolates.
Or some flowers. Oh, yeah, I know, I'm with you on that. But I think if you're going to a party and you're thinking, actually, I've got to drive, I'm not going to drink something, I'm going to take my own soft drinks, I'm going to take something for the host.
Yeah.
That is fine. But I don't think you should take booze if you're not going to drink the booze.
I think you should.
Hang on, this is a call to action. This is definitely a call to action because we can't agree on this. So, guys, just giving you all the ways you can get in touch.
Yeah.
Who are you with on this? If you're not going to... Look, we both agree. If you turn up to a dinner party without alcohol and you intend to drink and you start pinching somebody else's Peronis, that is dickish. We're with you, Alice. What about if you're going and you're just going to have soft drinks? Should you still take booze? That is the question. I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? When you pour a glass of wine and Judith comes in, oh, I've wanted to try that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Would you mind? I'll just take that one.
Yeah, I'll just have this. And you're just like, Judith?
Judith, you rude cow.
Judith, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah. Judith,
okay, Judith. And then before you know it, you walk into the kitchen, Judith's helping herself.
Oh, yeah. Judith's necking the whole lot.
Judith's like, I really enjoyed that. It is lovely, this Whispering Angel, isn't it? I'm just gonna pour myself another glass. You don't mind, Ange, do you? You don't mind?
No, not at all, Judith.
Fucking bitch.
Fucking cow.
This week's Don't Go There is all about sex, and we are joined by sex therapist Cate Campbell. Cate is a trained and registered psychosexual therapist, has been qualified for roughly 17 years, and as well as remaining in practice, she's also a college lecturer. Cate has her own podcast with her son Diggory called The Real Sex Education, and each week they talk to a guest about their own experiences of sex. Cate has written 3 books, The Relate Guide to Sex and Intimacy, Love and Sex in a New Relationship, and her most recent book, Contemporary Sex Therapy. She also happens to be my therapist, and I can confirm she is bloody fantastic. We can't wait to tackle this taboo subject of sex with her, so please welcome to Finding the Funny, Cate Campbell!
Hello!
Hey!
Yes!
Hi, it's lovely to be here.
Thanks so much for coming on, Cate.
Yeah,
It's a
we are
pleasure.
chuffed to have you here. Yes.
It's such a pleasure to be here.
So this subject is often our final section of our show is Don't Go There, and this is often a very don't go there subject, isn't it? It's something that people find difficult to talk about, and you know, it's people are embarrassed by it and feel a little bit like, it's quite a taboo subject. But we had, when I put up a question box on Instagram for you, we had so many questions, just people like all of a similar sort of theme. I think the biggest one, Ange, would you agree, was really about libido and kind of. So
that's
like we had one person ask us, so all the people have asked to remain anonymous, but somebody asked us about tips for sex drive that are at the opposite ends of the spectrum. So one kind of part of the couple is very high sex drive, the other part of the couple isn't that really that bothered by sex. How do couples manage that?
Well, that's really interesting because I'm very sceptical about this high-low sex drive thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's interesting. Couples that really, really strongly insist they have sex drives at the opposite end of the spectrum are often colluding in a strange kind of a way, because if you have a low sex drive, you get all the fun of somebody saying, I really want to make love to you, I find you so attractive, you're incredible.
Wow.
You get all of that without having to take your knickers off. You can just enjoy.
It's so true.
Yeah. And
Well, so you think there are some people in relationships that just want all of that all the time, so kind of make out like they're not really
not
that
consciously.
bothered.
No. I'm not
Okay.
saying they're doing it consciously. It's an unconscious kind of collusion. And the high sex drive person is saying, "Oh, well, you know, I can pursue, and I can say, oh, I'm really, really worried. I really, really want lots of sex," but they don't actually have to have it because they're with someone with a low sex drive. So if you were a high sex drive person, why would you hook up with someone with a low sex drive?
Yeah,
that
is interesting, isn't it?
It is really interesting. So, I mean, in real life, the couple may be very upset about the difference in their sex drive. They quite often say they are. They're quite often really bothered by it, upset by it. One of them, they stop pursuing at some point. But if you get them into therapy, you find that when the low sex drive person's sex drive increases, the high sex drive person sex drive decreases.
Okay.
That's
They
so
swap.
interesting.
So it's really difficult to believe that actually there's very much you can do without changing the way the couple feel about sex in general. I mean, it depends what you call sex as well. You know, what do you actually need to be satisfied? What are you looking for out of sex? That's the interesting question. What does it perform? Because if it's just an itch you want to scratch with this really high sex drive, go and masturbate, you'll be fine. But if it's all the other stuff, like, you know, if it's about having a relationship, feeling close, wanting to feel that you're okay, that you're a couple that's together, that you love one another, all of those things, then that's different. And there are all sorts of reasons why you might have a different sex drive because of that.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because sex and intimacy are so different, aren't they? Like, you can have a lot of intimacy in your relationship, but not a lot of sex. And you can have a lot of sex in your relationship, but not a lot of intimacy. And I suppose what you're saying is really interesting, because if you've got an off-the-chart libido, sure, like you say, go and masturbate. If you're looking for intimacy, find that in other ways, I suppose, within your relationship. How do you think you grow intimacy in a relationship?
Well, I mean, what's interesting is that some people are really frightened of it. So growing it is always going to come up against blocks. So what often happens with couples is they have a really, really fantastic swinging from the chandeliers, feeling close sex life until they move in together or get married or something, or get pregnant, or something happens where there's a commitment and suddenly intimacy's gone. Sex libido's gone. It's all changed. And I see couples, I say, oh, when did it change? Oh, when we moved in together, when we moved in together, every bloody time. And you think, really, that's fascinating. It's because when some big commitment's been made, like you've bought a bigger house or decided to make a baby or something, when there's a commitment, you suddenly think, my God, I could lose this person. And now that would be awful. And then suddenly you're too scared to get close. And again, this isn't conscious, it's unconscious, but that fear is there. And that's what messes everything up.
And do you think sometimes it is, do you think sometimes, Kate, it is about, like, before you kind of live with somebody, there's that element of, oh, I'm only going to see you on Wednesday. So actually, let's make some time to, whereas once you're living with someone.
Oh my God, yes.
You know, especially when you've got like 20 odd years, you know, in the bank, that sort of part of your life is difficult to kind of, I suppose, maintain. Or I mean, one of the questions we had actually was, how do couples keep that alive, or how do you spice that stuff up? Because I think for a lot of people, that thing of either years of being with the same person, or just the thing of actually now I'm seeing you or living with you every day, that changes your dynamic so much. How do you kind of how do you work with that sort of thing?
That's really interesting, because perception is a really big thing here. And I think an awful lot of people that have been together a long time start to worry about their relationship because they're not having as much sex. And really, exactly what you said is true. When you're going on a date, you probably are, you get ready to go on a date, you might shave your legs, put on your pretty underwear, and that's just the guys. And and then you're going to have sex, and it's more unusual if you don't have sex. But when it's there and you can have it all the time, how do you decide when to do it? So it's much more difficult. The thing that absolutely kills intimacy and kills good sex is that we are so sensitive to what our partner might not like. We really most people are operating on deficit sex. In other words, if he puts his hand somewhere and you liked it a minute ago, but then you go, oh no, that's a bit irritating, don't. Or just move it away or something. He's going to think, oh, she doesn't like that, and never do it again. And the same with you. If you're having a good old lick at something and he goes, ow, you will never do that again.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think you're right about...
Hang on, Pat. I just need to address with Kate. Did you just say when you're licking something?
Yeah, having a good old lick of something.
That was just obviously an example. Not necessarily.
You mean like a penis?
Not necessarily.
For a minute I was thinking, what, you're having a lick of a lolly? And I'm like, no,
a part of his body, obviously, but it could be his elbow or big toe or anything.
Oh, good
that was just an example.
Do you know what? I think the interesting point you make there, though, Kate, is about perception, because I think lots and lots of couples get very hung up on how much sex are other couples having. Like,
yes,
you know, the whole question of, can you really live in a sexless long-term relationship? Does that mean that actually you're just cohabiting with your best mate? Like, I think there's so many couples out there that are like, oh God, we haven't had sex for like 2 months, or we haven't had sex for 2 weeks. And all the other couples out there are doing it every week or doing it every other week, and they have a proper schedule. And I just don't think that's true. I just don't think that is the way that people who have been in long-term relationships, unless they're trying to make a baby, I just don't think that's the way that life is. But I think perception is what people get so hung up on. Like, what if I came out to my friends and said, my partner and I haven't had sex for 2 years? Like, would everybody look at us and go, oh, I mean, why are you still
What's
even
wrong with you?
together? Yeah, exactly. But I think that's some of the taboos we've got to kick apart. That actually there are lots of couples out there who are really happy together, have lots of intimacy in their relationships, but perhaps don't have a lot of sex, and actually that's okay. Like, you know, it's different strokes for different folks, isn't it?
Nice.
And then it also goes through different phases. Relationships go through different phases. I mean, you might not want so much sex when you've got small children around. I mean, it might be a bit aversive, thinking, God, I could get another one if you're overwhelmed. But also, you know, is there time for that? And the other thing is that if you've been in a relationship for longer than 10 years, most women's response most women's desire is going to be responsive rather than active. So you're gonna be not turned on, not interested in sex until you're turned on.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
And that's really interesting. And that's sort of, there's been a lot of research done into this, and they find that a third of men are the same. So in a long relationship, you've got to have somebody then wanting to, sort of pushing it, or you've got to decide you've got to decide you're going to do it, whether you feel like it or not. You're just going to have to say, okay, we're going to do this.
Because from what you're saying there, that's predominantly happens more to women than men, although it does happen to men. Yeah. So do you think, because there's obviously a lot of talk around like the menopause and just sort of hormones and how, I mean, hormones ultimately drive a lot of your sex drive and that sort of, so I sort of think, is that why that tends to happen more to women? Because actually the changes that happen to you, it's nothing to do with that.
It's not that. And you know, you can see how it's more difficult in long same-sex relationships where you haven't got a man in there, or if you happen to have the third of men who don't feel. It's to do with how long the relationship is and how comfortable you feel together. And some people think that you get so close that you become like brother and sister, and then a kind of incest taboo kicks in because you're too close. So you need to keep a bit of difference, and there is no more heart sync couple for couple counselors, for relationship therapists, than a couple that come in and say, we're soulmates. You think, oh my God, no, please no. Because they're so similar, there's going to be no sex. They're too similar.
That is so fascinating. I find that whole thing around the like incest like taboo kicking in really interesting, because you want that closeness, don't you, with your partner? But I suppose what you're saying is, in the whole kind of spicing things up, you've got to almost keep a little bit of like tension and difference. That's so fascinating. Wow.
Yeah, so role play is a good idea if you're really, to get yourself out of that.
Yes.
I mean, if you start,
Let's get into some role play.
Yeah,
because you can pretend that you're not yourself.
That you're not
you're someone else, and then you can do things that you couldn't do as you. Yeah. And that's really, and that works for a lot of people.
Yeah,
it's also changing. If we're just talking about spicing things, changing the environment, going to a different room, to a different place, to a hotel, but taking away the pressure is 9/10 of the battle. And
we actually did have somebody ask about pressure, because they said, how do I help my husband who is struggling with performance issues? There's so much pressure on men. So this person was a woman, and she wanted to know how she could help her husband in that, like, feeling very pressurized.
I would suggest a sex ban, which really works well. So if you,
it's amazing.
even when
amazing.
almost everything to do with sex is counterintuitive, actually, that works. So if you have a couple who are not having sex and you say to them, oh, you should do a sex ban, they say, well, we're not having sex anyway, and you say, but it's not explicit. So when you explicitly say we're going to have a sex ban, then you have to talk about what sex is and what is allowable. So you might say, okay, well, we can still do some intimate things, we can cuddle up on the sofa, and maybe we can snog, and we can do this and we can do that. We can go that far, but no further. And 9 times out of 10, you say to people, there's a sex ban. They come back and say, Cate, oh, really sorry.
But we fell through on the ban.
The ban didn't work. And and because you create that sexual tension by banning sex, and I honestly think if you try and stick to the ban, by the time you lift the ban, you are so horny because you've introduced that tension into the relationship, and you also aren't having that thing where you're worrying, if I touch her, is she going to think that I want sex? And then the pressure's gone. The pressure's completely gone, and then you don't have to think about it. And also think about all the other things that are lovely. Get your head away from outcomes and say, okay, we can have as much sex as you like, but there's to be no ejaculation, no erection, and no orgasm. Then you try doing that. You try stopping those things from happening.
That is really interesting about it being counterintuitive. That is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's really interesting. Yeah.
Communication is so important in sex, isn't it? I think people forget that, don't they? Like, the actual doing of the sex is such a small part often. It often doesn't last very long, or all those kind of jokes that you can make about it. But actually it's true, isn't it? Because the real power of what you like sexually comes from those conversations. And I suppose that's interesting, because what you were saying earlier about if you say to somebody, oh, I don't like it when you do that can be counterintuitive in the sense that somebody thinks, well, I'm not going to do that again. But I suppose it's both parts of the partnership saying, you're not going to offend me, and I'm not going to be sad by anything that you say you like or don't like.
Right. And the thing is that what you like 1 minute isn't necessarily going to be what you like the next minute, particularly with women. You know how a really great feeling can be irritating after a bit. So you want a change. And then and you don't want to insult somebody. So it's really difficult. But saying communication is really important. Counterintuitively, again, my clients in sex therapy are not allowed to talk to one another about what they're doing. So yeah, I know.
Really?
So it's agreed beforehand what they're going to do. Well, in fact, I tell them what to do, so we know. But when they're actually in the situation, they may not speak. I mean, unless they're actually hurt, unless somebody's hurt them or something like that. You also aren't allowed to make faces. You're not allowed to show disgust or anything like that. You can't make a face, and you can't go me. And you just cannot do. You cannot do. You can't talk about it, and you can't talk about it afterwards. And you even can't talk about it sometimes in therapy. It sort of depends. But the point about that is that you have to learn to manage not knowing, and you have to manage your feelings. And when you don't know, and you have to stop imagining, oh, I bet he's not going to like this, so I'm not going to do it. Oh, I bet she won't like that. Oh, she looks all right, but is she enjoying this? To get that out of your head so that you can just concentrate on your own interests and your own pleasure, you have to stop talking. And so once you can master that, then you can talk again. Then you can talk as much as you like. But people get there very quickly. First of all, they can't do it and it doesn't work. But then it clicks. And once it clicks, oh my God, they have great sex.
Wow.
That is
really,
so
really
fascinating.
Now, this is a question we had in, Cate, that we thought we'd bring. And the question says, having had a traumatic experience with sex in the past, how can I stop flashbacks during sex now?
Yeah, well, if that's happening, I would absolutely suggest getting some help with that, because it's really difficult to stop flashbacks once they've started. And certain things are going to be triggers, and there'll always be triggers, and it's really, really difficult to change things. If you're getting flashbacks, you've got a problem that needs to be dealt with, and you can't just do that yourself. You need some help. So most people would opt for EMDR. Which is a great treatment for flashbacks, which works. And the reason that I trained in EMDR actually was because so many people were coming into sex therapy, say with that exactly that problem, and I was having to refer them off somewhere else before we could do the sex therapy. So now, or they try the sex therapy and they suddenly start getting the flashbacks. So, and especially with somebody telling you what to do, you can imagine if you've been sexually abused and you've got Cate sitting there saying, right, so now I want you to go home and I want you to do this. And that's just exactly what they may have experienced in the past. And also people starting a sex therapy program often want to keep it a secret. They don't want anyone to know. So there are issues like that going on. So secrecy and abuse go together. So there's all sorts of triggers. So people who don't even know they have flashbacks might start getting them. So that's why I trained in EMDR, and now we just do the EMDR and crack on.
Can you explain a little bit what EMDR is, Cate?
Yes,
that is actually the therapy that I did with Cate, and it's absolutely amazing. But do you just want to explain a little bit about it?
It's spooky, isn't it? It's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And so basically you would get up an image from the flashback in your head, follow a light with your eyes back and forth, and over a period of time, and keep stopping, checking in with the therapist. And over a period of time, the memory changes so that you still remember it, but it doesn't bother you. It doesn't have the emotional content. And we're doing it all online at the moment. So you don't follow a light with your eyes anymore. What you do now is you pat you pat your shoulders, and in time to a horrible bleeping noise, which is absolutely foul. And it works even better. Online works better than the eye movement. So it's a brilliant thing.
And it's good for all sorts of trauma, isn't it? Like medical trauma as well, and like maybe if somebody's had a horrific car accident or something, and it sort of takes you back to that moment and sort of sorts the memory out in your head, essentially.
Yeah, it's the least traumatizing of all the traumas, because you don't have to tell everybody, you don't have to go over and over and over and tell everybody about it. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. And in fact, you can actually do it simply with the feelings that you get as a result. You don't even need to say anything if you're with a skilled therapist. So it's I'm such a big fan. But I mean, it works for everything. Phobias.
I was just about to say that. Does it work for phobia? Because obviously that can be a real issue for
OCD.
For people. Okay.
All sorts of depression, really anxiety, you name it.
And Cate, just before we go, your podcast with Diggory, your son, is all about sex, isn't it? So you and Diggory get together every week. Is the new series out yet or not yet?
No, new series coming next month.
Okay, so you get together every week, and you just tell us a little bit about that, about what your podcast is about.
So we talked to somebody. In the first two series, we were talking to somebody about their sex education. Yeah. This series, we're talking to experts, including you, Ruth, about something related to sex. And making it a bit more focused. So we do it, but the fun of it is that I of course know about the subjects a bit already, whereas he in theory doesn't, but he's getting to a point where he knows more than me, and but it's super fun because we meet all sorts of
such
interesting
a fun podcast. It's so good.
people.
You can get it wherever you listen to your podcast, and it really is fascinating. And if you want to open up this world of sex a bit more and learn a bit more, it's a really, really great place to go and listen to people's experiences. So new series of that coming next month. You can listen to that wherever you get your podcast.
And I think, like you said at the top, Pats, I think it is something that...
Just so you know, Kate, my sister calls me Patty. It's very weird. But if you hear her calling me Pats or Patty, she's talking to me.
Sorry about that, Kate. Yeah,
identity confusion here.
She's actually Patty. She's not Ruth. Forget
I've
Ruth.
got a lot of identity in Ange's world.
Right, okay.
But what I was going to say was that I think it is something that people just don't talk about, don't want to talk about it in public or with friends. I think people do keep that stuff very, very private. And I think hearing someone like you talk today,
absolutely,
it just makes me go, why do we have to keep this stuff so secret? And
well,
you're
changing that, aren't you? You're opening it up and you're talking about it. And I mean, you do anyway. I mean, I think this is such a great podcast. It's so much fun. And the thing is, where it's natural and where people are just cheerfully talking about things, it makes it much less scary.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely does.
And it is about finding the funny. I mean, if you can't be cheerful and playful about sex, when can you, for God's sake?
Exactly. Yeah. You can't be chatting about hard-ons and tits.
And licking bits.
And licking hard-ons, tits and licking bits. There we go. That could be a new podcast.
Sounds great.
Finding the funny. Finding the funny.
So that's it. The end of another episode. Thanks so much again to Cate for coming on and joining us. Remember to check out her podcast, The Real Sex Education. You can find Ange and I in loads of different places. You can find us on Instagram. I'm at Ruth Corden. She's at Ange Corden. You can find us on Facebook. Just search Finding the Funny Podcast. Or you can send us an email, hello@ruthcorden.com. And genuinely, we love hearing from you. But for now, we'll be back next week helping you to find more of the funny.
With Ruth and Ange, finding the funny.